This video is to correct false information when it comes to voting. It is to correct this false narrative that is being spread by our own people that sounds very much like colonizer talk, that is meant to discourage our people from gaining power. So I want to share something that was shared with me. But let me make something very clear before I get started. Shame on you. Those that claim to be for raza and those that claim to want to teach us to reconnect with our indigenous ways, but spread misinformation that can harm our communities. So let me start off by saying democracy is indigenous. Let me be very clear. Democracy is indigenous. Democracy didn't begin in Europe. It did not begin with the United States. It began with the indigenous peoples. Long before the U.S. Constitution, long before the settlers wrote their founding documents, indigenous nations across this continent, including Mexica and Maya, were already governing through organized systems rooted in the community voice, collective responsibility, and most of all, balance. Our ancestors were not discoveries. They were not uncivilized. They were already governing complex societies. This was never about one ruler holding all the power. It was about councils of leadership, accountability to the people, and responsibility to future generations. Across Abya Yala, indigenous governance was built on the understanding that power belongs to the community, not to a crown, not to corporations, and not to colonizers. When Europeans fled monarchy, they did not invent democracy. They encountered indigenous political systems that were already here. And like land, like labor, and like culture, those indigenous principles were extracted and repackaged. Colonial systems took the language of democracy while stripping away the indigenous values of true collective power. What we see today is not the full spirit of indigenous governance. It's a colonized version. So when people try to say that voting, organizing, or civic engagement is not indigenous, understand what is happening. That is narrative erasure. So reclaiming our political voice is not assimilation. Once again, reclaiming our political voice is not assimilation. It is decolonial memory. It is ancestral continuity. It is political survival. As the descendants of the Mexica, the Maya, and the many nations of Abya Yala, engaging, organizing, and demanding accountability is part of our responsibility. Our ancestors governed. Our ancestors organized, and most of all, our ancestors resisted. They did not survive invasion, forced colonization, and attempted erasure for us to sit quietly inside systems that were built from pieces of our own knowledge. So remember, we are not late to democracy. We are its original teachers. So remember, when they try to tell you that voting is not our indigenous ways, shit, they are way wrong. They need to study shit. So remember, organize, participate, and most of all, reclaim what is ours. Don't let these fake activists spread this colonizer fucking rhetoric. So if we want to really make a change, go out there and vote, participate, but most of all, organized, and let's start teaching our youth how to run for office so we could reclaim what is already ours.